Okay, let's talk about something wild happening in tech right now, the AI bubble. How do we go from a pretty cool chatbot to a $7 trillion gamble in just a couple of years? It all kicks off with one single baffling statement.
Yeah, you heard that right. The company that's the poster child for the AI revolution, OpenAI, is actually losing money on its main product. They're not breaking even, it's not a small loss. They are actively losing cash the more successful they get. So how on earth can a company be losing money on its main product and still be seen as this massive titan? Because get this, Wall Street's response to this news was to value that same company at $500 billion. Welcome to the AI bubble, where the numbers just don't seem to add up. To figure out how we got here, we got to rewind the clock to late 2022.
On November 30th, 2022, OpenAI drops ChatGPT, and boom, in less than 48 hours, the internet had a brand new obsession. It honestly felt like magic, and the way it grew, well, Silicon Valley had never seen anything like it.
I mean, just look at these numbers. The speed here is absolutely insane. 1 million users in 5 days. 100 million in just 2 months. To give you some perspective, it took Instagram 2.5 years to get there. Facebook, 4.5 years. This wasn't just growth, it was a full-on explosion, and it sent these massive shockwaves through the entire tech industry.
And you know who was freaking out the most? Google. See, here's the crazy part. They had actually invented the core technology behind ChatGPT years ago. It was their research, but they were just too careful. Too worried about lawsuits or bad PR from a rogue AI, so they kept it locked up. OpenAI, they didn't have those fears. They just shipped it, and that one move changed absolutely everything.
So what happens next? Almost immediately, Microsoft just swoops in and throws $10 billion at OpenAI. And that single investment, that was the starting gun. It basically screamed to the rest of the world that the race was on, and it kicked off this total investment frenzy.
And just like that, the AI gold rush began. The FOMO, the fear of being left behind, was so intense that investors just started throwing money at anything and everything that had the letters A and I in it.
The whole climate just became completely manic. I'm serious. It got to a point where if your pitch deck even mentioned stuff like neural networks or large language models, you were basically printing money. It didn't even matter if you had a product or customers or even a real plan. The hype alone was enough. And, this led to some, let's just say, creative uses of the technology.
I mean, come on. We saw AI-powered toothbrushes, AI recipe generators, AI dating coaches. My favorite is the AI that summarizes what other AIs have written. We had officially hit peak absurdity. But underneath all this ridiculous hype, the real gold rush was for one specific piece of hardware. Right. So to get this whole gold rush, you got to understand GPUs. These are basically the super powerful computer chips that do all the heavy lifting for training AI models. And almost overnight, they became the most valuable thing on the planet. I mean, more valuable than gold. The company that makes most of them, NVIDIA, just skyrocketed to become one of the biggest companies in the world.
The demand was so insane that the cost for a small startup to just rent the GPUs they needed to train one AI model could be over $1.1 million a month. This really shows you the incredible cost of this new gold rush. So, the party was in full swing, but eventually someone had to ask the really awkward question, who is paying for all this?
Okay, so this is where the story takes a turn. We go from all that excitement to a pretty sobering reality check. Because when you look past the insane valuations and the hype, you find some really, really ugly math.
So let's go back to OpenAI for a second. In 2024, they brought in a pretty impressive $3.7 billion in revenue. Not bad, right? Well, here's the problem. They posted losses of $5 billion. They didn't just fail to make a profit, they lost way more money than they even earned. And the scale of what the entire industry is planning to spend, well, it's even more mind-boggling.
Okay, get ready for this number. Industry forecasts are showing that the infrastructure needed to power the AI industry, we're talking data centers, cooling, power grids, all those GPUs, could cost up to $6.7 trillion by 2030. That's trillion with a T.
And this right here, this chart really gets to the heart of the problem. To justify that kind of spending, the AI industry needs to be making about $2 trillion in revenue every year by 2030. Where are they now? As you can see, they're at about $200 billion. That is a 10x gap that somehow needs to close in just a few years. And this is why it matters, right? That massive gap between the hype and the reality, that's where bubbles live. It's like a hockey stick growth curve drawn by someone who's never actually seen a hockey stick.
And at the exact same time, the technology itself started to show some major flaws. AIs were hallucinating, which is just a fancy tech word for making stuff up. You had Google's AI famously telling people to put glue on their pizza, a tip it picked up from a Reddit joke. And then came the lawsuits. The New York Times, artists, authors, musicians, they all started suing, saying their copyrighted work was used to train these models without any permission. The whole vibe was definitely starting to shift.
So you've got insane losses, technology that's kind of shaky, and a mountain of lawsuits. You have to ask the obvious question. If this is a bubble, why hasn't it popped yet? Probably the best way to understand it is with this poker analogy. You've got the biggest players, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, all sitting at the table. If any one of them decides to fold, another one wins the whole pot. So nobody folds. They just keep raising the stakes over and over. Because for them, the cost of being wrong and missing out on the next big thing is way, way bigger than the cost of losing a few $1 billion along the way. And this slide shows you the key difference between what's happening now and the dot-com bubble back in the late 90s. See, back then, startups were funded by venture capital. They burned through cash until it was just gone. Poof, game over. But today, this bubble is being funded by giant, insanely profitable companies. Microsoft, Google, Meta, they can afford to just bleed billions on AI because their main businesses are basically money-printing machines. For them, this isn't about making a profit today. It's a defense strategy. It's a massive bet they're making because they're terrified of becoming irrelevant tomorrow.
So how does this all end? Well, historically, bubbles burst in one of three ways. Number one, the money just disappears. Interest rates go up, the free cash dries up. Number two, a big, embarrassing meltdown happens. Think of one spectacular failure that just shatters confidence in the whole industry. Or, number three, one of the giants at that poker table finally stops pretending and says, all right, that's enough, we're out.
Right now, we're not at the explosion yet. We're in that super tense moment right before it. It's like the inhale before the scream. The big tech giants are still spending like crazy, and reality hasn't quite managed to break through the hype. So the question isn't really if the bubble will burst anymore. It's what will finally be the thing that pops it, and when that season finale is finally going to begin.
So I hope this breakdown gave you a much clearer picture of what's going on with the AI bubble.
If you'd like more simple and useful insights into the world of tech, make sure to subscribe to Refreshing Tech. Thanks for watching.